Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the podcast room in Accounting Web Towers. That's where I am at the moment. My name is Mike Goldsmith. I'm head of events here at Accounting Web and Sift Media. I look after the Accounting Excellence Awards here at Accounting Web. There's lots of changes this year. We've got a new team. We've got a new venue, which we've just been gossiping about in the green room, and also lots of new categories. And two of those categories are around ESG and DEI and what we're calling the Pride Awards. So to discuss all of these new awards, the landscape for accounting at the moment, which means we're able to launch these categories, we have some guests. So first of all, we have Peter Ellington. Now, Peter is a judge on our Pride ESG Award. Peter has written passionately about ESG and why accountants should care about social responsibility. And as CEO of Triple Bottom Line Accounting, Peter offers clients a net zero sustainability reporting service that integrates into an advisory capacity, real hot topic for accounting in 2023. We also have Blair Palmer. Blair is a judge on our Pride DEI Award. Blair is a culture and leadership specialist of That People Thing since 2000, and she's dedicated to preaching authentic human connection, trust, empowerment, and continual innovation. We're not doing software awards right now, are we? Which is great. This is like accounting excellence. You can see is more and more about the people behind the tech. The tech has become normalized, which is fantastic. So it's about kind of releasing people's capacity. But first of all, I want to turn to Kevin McCallum. So Kevin is hugely experienced in accounting tech from his roles at Free Agent and Accountancy Manager, and he is now CEO of Bright, who are sponsors of our Pride Awards for 2023 and 2024, which is brilliant. So Kevin, welcome. Why sponsor the Pride Awards?
Thanks for having me, Mike. We're really excited to be sponsors of the Pride Awards. I think Bright itself is quite a new entity. So we came together, various different businesses that we brought together. So there's Bright Pay, payroll software, Accountancy Manager, you mentioned, BTC Software we acquired in Ireland, there's Relate and Surf as well. So some of these businesses are sort of 20, even 30 years old in some cases. And Bright, though itself as an entity, only really kind of came into being about a year ago, there and thereabouts. So I think we've got an opportunity to be now thinking of ourselves as a kind of startup again, even though there's kind of heritage and history and capability and understanding experience. But I think in that, in 2023, looking forward, that there's a real opportunity to be quite intentional. And you mentioned the word authentic as to the human values that go along with that. So we're very, very keen to support anything that actually makes the accounting profession more human. Technology, yeah, fantastic. You need to be efficient. You need to be able to do these kind of bits and pieces, but that can also be supportive of various other aspects. So, people being able to work remotely for various reasons, whether that's, through neurodiversity requirements they might have, or even just accessing people in this kind of environment rather than having people into an office. And then on the same side, Peter, I'm sure, is going to talk quite extensively and I'm sure very detailed about ESG as a thing and how technology can support that. So it's something we feel very, very strongly about at Bright and something we're investing in for ourselves as our business. So we're keen to kind of be able to reflect what our customers and our users are thinking about to the world today as well.
That's fantastic. And if we could turn to Peter about that. So we were just chatting away, and the first time I met Peter after we'd spoken a couple of times was Peter was on a session that was run by Alistair Barlow about the new niches that people could explore. And he presented ESG as one of those, a little bit of a reductive way of describing it, but he happened to win. So as Kevin says, I think he will be speaking quite eloquently about this and very persuasively. So Peter, welcome. Where do you think ESG sits in accounting in 2023? I mean, it's no longer a nice to have, is it?
No, it should be core to people's advisory services that they're developing. So I can explain what we're doing at Triple Bottom Line Accounting. We're a small accountancy practice, but with a big punch in this area. And advocacy is the game. So we've been talking to software vendors, for example, about how they can put the net zero measurement tools against their software. And so, you know, it becomes that you've got your pound notes in the accounting software, and then your carbon as another currency sitting alongside it. And these measurement tools are really quite good. And it does sort of really show how accountants can be counting the carbon and then taking that information and working with their clients to put together a net zero plan for them. So it's really in the domain of accountants. It's not sustainability consultants. Accountants can do this stuff and be there. So what we're doing at Triple Bottom Line Accounting is trying to be an exemplar for what ESG and sustainability means and what it means to be in that field. So on the boundaries of what's possible. So we have a net zero service. We are a 4-day week employer, although that has its challenges. We're building sustainability into our advisory services. And you might have heard, people might have heard when they're talking about net zero, is you measure your scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. Okay, emissions. Scope 3 is what you buy from other people. There is actually a 4th scope, and it's called scope X. And scope X is when you're campaigning on behalf of the planet and society to improve the world. So how much of that are you doing? You know, and so what this award is about is I think that accountants have been labelled with the sort of people that reduce your tax, do your accounts, and are about short-term things. But actually, the more I'm talking about this subject area, the more I find out about what great things people are doing in their communities for the environment as accountants. And it's kind of, we kind of shy away from it, from boasting about these things. And this is an opportunity for accountants to actually to be proud of the things they're doing. There are people helping the local schools, all those sort of things, so that where people are proud, and accountants should be putting applications in for this award because they're doing good things, and so let's celebrate that. And so, you know, it's the environmental stuff, which is what you're doing for planet and nature, society, which I'm sure Blair's going to talk about a little bit more as well, is about what you're doing for people and society, how you're a fair employer, how you've helped people within your teams, and so on, helping all the diversity within your team, getting people to bring themselves to work. And interesting saying that, because the trouble is when you get people to bring themselves to work, they then decide where they really want to be and they leave. but that's another story. And then the governance. I think people often sort of cloud the governance and think that it's items, but actually I think it's more about deciding what you're going to do, documenting it, and then holding yourself to account and your pledges so that you roll out those ESG things fairly across your business, okay, and help your clients. But I'll stop talking a minute. But the big thing, the big opportunity, and it's a profit-making opportunity, it is the ability to start putting sustainability into your advisory service. So who are your clients going to talk to when they want to get a competitive advantage in their market, or to mitigate the risks of climate change and other biodiversity loss and so on? Who are the best people to talk to? It's their advisors, their accountants. Because not only can we make suggestions to them and brainstorm ideas with them, but we can also then build it into their numbers and work out the optimum points for when they invest in these things and when they de-risk their business. We've got the numbers, so we can help them make sure they make the decisions at the right points. And so, you know, it's about bringing those examples of how you've helped your clients and how you've run your business, taking these environmental and social aspects into account. That if we can get some great applications, I'm sure that we'll get a really good winner of this award.
Entries opened on the 14th. They've been open for a couple of weeks. They're like flooding in now. I recommend everyone get their entry in who's interested in these categories. Our producer is going to be pinning a entry toolkit, which you can download from this webinar. There'll be a link to that in the episode page, and it's also on the Accounting Excellence website as well. I'm just kind of broadening that out to everyone. I mean, it's like one of the questions was when I think about who's going to be entering this, I imagine the cliche is it's going to be people who care about it. And I mean, Peter, you've just about touched on it. And so it's not just people who really care about this, because we're going to get the kind of tofu eating wokerati criticism, aren't we? You can see it now. But actually that more and more, like Peter's saying, that this is normal, in very inverted commas, people who just, care about what they do with their business. Are you finding it changing, the people who care about the planet?
Absolutely. We've got some really good examples recently of people that you just wouldn't expect to be concerned about this area. We've got a removals company that want to be the greenest removals company in the country, and their logo with moving to sustainability. And we're looking at how they can reduce their emissions, because removals companies, a lot of waste management. So how are they managing their waste management? And so we're looking at the ESG concept, and he wants to be seen as a role model in this area, which is, it's just a super case study, because this guy's a boxer and you just wouldn't expect him. He says, I'm not a tree hugger, but I can see this is a great opportunity for my business. And it's just a case of bringing the awareness, and the clients are going, oh, yeah, well, can you help me on this? And like, for example, I was talking to the ICAEW last week, and they've said they've got 12,000 firms helping 3.5 million businesses. So if this is accountants can have such a mega impact on sustainability here, and you don't have to do it because you just want to be kind. You can do it as a side issue because it's a good thing to do, but it's part of your service. You should be charging decent money because your clients will benefit from a marketing perspective, and there's major cost benefits to be had here. So it's just about being an accountant to your clients and bringing in the sustainability. But a lot of people say, well, don't know where to start. And my wife would say, you start by starting. But, you've got to get some of your accountants, some of the people who work in your business, off onto some of these sustainability certificates. So the ACCA have a sustainability certificate. ICAEW have a sustainability certificate. They're about £300. They take about 20 hours. And so it's getting that knowledge. And as soon as you start grabbing some of that knowledge, it becomes very sort of like evident where you can help your clients from when you start doing their budgeting and working with them on advisory, where you can bring the ideas in. So it's, start by starting, get somebody on some training courses. And in fact, if you're running a practice, go on it yourself, because you probably enjoy doing it. Just, taking away the unknown, the mystery around this. It's not that, it's reasonably straightforward.
I think we can put some links to those. We can, this is the sound of me editing the episode page afterwards. I'll make sure that we have this, because it is organization kind of agnostic. We'll come to you.
Sorry, just on just to pick up on that. I mean, I think it's, and I think Blair will probably come into this in a lot more detail, I'm sure, but there is a lot of research that would actually point at how businesses that do think and invest in ESG and are open to diversity are actually more successful businesses. Increasingly these days, a lot of research and stuff reading by McKinsey recently, just about the growth that you have in these things. And we also know that the kind of value you generate from business, as much as kind of customer expectations, client expectations, that they want to deal with people who are of a like mind and thinking, are of a similar attitude to these things. So you'll attract more clients. It'll become possibly even a competitive disadvantage not to be thinking this through in some cases, as Peter says quite rightly. But Blair, sorry, I don't want to kind of tread on anything, I'm sure, but you'd have a lot more to say about how this actually benefits a business to be thinking in diverse ways and thinking of diversity in general.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some numbers right in front of me, actually. Sodexo did some research about their investment, and they figured out that for every dollar, this was American, obviously, but for every dollar they invested in DE&I, they saw a $19 return. So so far, listening to you guys and thinking about my experiences, I've not seen any cost, only benefits. I cannot see why an organization wouldn't do it, other than they've rejected it because, it seems like some new, as you said, I don't like to use the word woke because I actually really like stuff. But they reject it with that kind of blasé, oh, we never worried about this, in the past, why should we worry about it? And then they reinforce kind of institutional assumptions of, well, we try to recruit more diverse people, but they don't apply. So, so this kind of very narrow view of their responsibility, the ways that they are kind of getting in the way of progress and the way that they're getting in the way of money. But, you know, they're not the people we're really talking to, right? Because we're not looking in these awards for firms that are new to this, that have just had a revelation, you know, listening to us chat about this for the last 10 minutes. We're looking for those companies, those firms that have already been thinking about and working on this secretly, I mean, not intentionally secretly, but doing it because it's the right thing to do, not because they're applying to win an award, doing it because they can see the commercial benefits, doing it because they want to have a whole range of people knocking at their door to come and work there, to add value, to add diversity of thought, to generate even better ideas that serve clients. That's their motive. And they already know the stuff that, you know, all the data that I've got in front of me and all the data that Peter's been throwing around. But we want to give them the opportunity to get some recognition, not because that's why they're doing it, but because they and their people and these issues deserve to have the attention.
I think it's really interesting. I went to, Peter, you mentioned the, ACCA, for example. I went to a talk recently from the AICPA down here in Bristol, and they had Tim Harford, the undercover economist, on there. So it's great. I was fanboying there. And they, one of the speakers mentioned that the people who are really embedding ESG in their firms and their businesses weren't just like young 20-somethings who thought about it for 5 minutes, or that they'd grown up with it, so it had been normalized for them. It was people who were digitally literate, and they were starting companies in their 40s, going into their 50s, and they wanted to leave a legacy. Yes, they cared about, turning a profit. Yes, they cared about their businesses and their teams, but they were going, now the thing that motivates me is leaving a good legacy behind for my children. We see what we've done to the planet. We see, the struggles that people have. And it's like, I can make a difference by the thing that I do between 9 and 5, or probably between 9 and 9 if you're a startup. I can really make a difference now. So it's fantastic that this has become normalized. If you're not part of this, it's Blair, like you're saying, it's someone who has proactively decided not to do it, as opposed to proactively decided, yes, this is going to be good for our marketing or something.
Yes, and do you want an accountant who refuses to move with the times, who says, we didn't do this in the 70s, and we didn't do this in the 80s, we didn't do this in the 90s, I'm not doing it? If they feel that way about these issues, they probably feel that way about quite a lot of things, and getting in the way of their clients' success. So I do think that, talking about this and being able to show that you've had recognition attracts to you clients that want you for that, but also want you for your innovative thinking about a lot of different topics.
And then to tie onto that as well, Mike, and Blair's absolutely right, is that you want your accountant to be thinking on your behalf, slightly ahead perhaps of these aspects. But even from a business point of view, as an accountant, how do you attract staff? How do you attract the right kind of young people coming into the industry? There's still a lot of people training. It's still seen as an interesting profession, but it's quite competitive out there. We've done some research. I think we've got some stuff going out soon about the volume of applications in different conurbations is for each accounting role that's out there, and it's a bit varied depending on London. Obviously, there's a lot of clustering, but in some of the other bigger cities, there's not that many people applying for each one of the roles. So how do you attract the right kind of, and as Peter said, actually, and retain, importantly, the right kind of staff who align with the quality of work you want to do, but also the values you have as a business? And increasingly, I'm in my late 30s, so it's one of those kind of, I've seen a few of these over the years, that the different approaches, as Blair said, it's maybe not the 70s, but certainly going back a few decades in these things, is people's attitude to work is quite different today. And people coming into a profession, their attitude to that is quite different to what it was even 10 years ago, Blair, I think 15 years ago, as to how and what they look for, and equally their willingness to move to someone that meets with what they expect and what they want to, the contribution and difference they want to make. Yeah. So I think that becomes a competitive disadvantage as well, as much as attracting clients, as attracting the right kind of staff. is really, really key from this.
Yeah, I mean, the latest data is that 54% of job seekers say they'd be willing to take a pay cut to work for a company that aligned with their values.
Wow.
So, if we think about difficult economic times, and you're thinking about how can we retain or attract the most talented people, the people that care the most about doing really great work, well, we can throw money at them, but well, we can't, because we can't afford it. But even if we could afford it, what we're going to attract is people who are in it for the money. Actually, if we can stand for our values and really stand for those values, we will attract people who may come from some rich firm doing meaningless work to come and do really more meaningful, important work with us because they care. And I mean, that again, it's a win-win. I can't see any downside of that.
I think that one of the kind of happy byproducts of hybrid working and working from home is that we know from it's one of those Gen Z sessions that you end up going on, that company culture really matters to people. And company culture, maybe 3 years ago, it was lazy enough to say that we'll enter you in a Tough Mudder and here's a free fruit box, right? That's not company culture. What does your company actually stand for? And I'm looking forward to looking at these entries, because this is going to give people a chance to say, we stand for this, and we stood for this throughout a pandemic, going into kind of like troubled economic times, and then going forward, we still stand for this. And if you're one of those 7 people who are up for every job, or the numbers that you see now, who are you going to pick? And I don't think it's because you get free tea and coffee.
But equally, you kind of don't define culture. Doesn't define from the top and trickle down. It kind of aggregates from a center, and we see this now, having acquired other businesses. Every time you drop another kind of like colored dye into the water, it slightly changes the color of the water. And I think that's an interesting thing for us. And you can do your best to kind of curate it, I suppose, at some level. We know what's appropriate, know what's inappropriate in certain kind of inches, or is central or core, whatever. But I'd be interested to know from Peter and Blair, as to culture, how you actually do engender these kind of bits and pieces. I think that is fundamental to, and the ESG and D&I stuff is, they're basic tenets, aren't they, of what stands for culture in 2023 again.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we have a weekly catch up with everybody, 12 o'clock on a Wednesday. We just go through what we're doing, how we're recruiting, what clients we've taken on, and so on. And it's you can see the pride in the company in Triple Bottom Line Accounting. People are really pleased. We get some just lovely clients coming along. There's a client in Cornwall. We're in Norfolk. They're hundreds of miles away, but they've seen us through a network and wanted to join us. And they just start. You can just see it gradually changing, and people getting that pride, and then they're coming to work and they're thinking, I'm going to work, and I like going to work, and they're working together and towards a goal, which is about being that leading practice in sustainability and ESG issues. I mean, we've tripled in 3 years, so it's Triple Bottom Line tripling, and the growth's carrying on, and so it's just a pleasure to be part of what we're doing, and I think it's all very beneficial. I call it a good death, actually, because I'm getting a little bit old. And I think that you could be lying on your deathbed thinking of the millions of pounds you've made.
Yeah.
Or you can be having a good death thinking, well, that was a good shot. I did well there. And I got a friend who's a Jungian psychiatrist, and he talks about this. People have died and then come back to life, and they've completely changed their life afterwards. Unfortunately, most of us die and just die. But when I die, I want to be able to say, that was a good shot. I did okay there.
I think that word legacy was something that, that was said to me at this, the AICPA meeting. Another one, when you talk about, Kevin, you talk about how do you kind of like properly engender it and get it into the DNA of a firm. It doesn't trickle down. Where does that come from? One interesting tip, and obviously this is for kind of like larger firms, was that if you have any ESG or DEI initiative and you're a business, get your FD involved. Get them on there, because those questions that you have, really, this is just a cost. And all of, the numbers that you were saying, Blair, it's like, get them involved at the beginning, and they will see that this will absolutely convert to your bottom line and hopefully triple it, like Peter's saying. Is there any of your experience, any tips that you've got, Blair, about how you kind of like really get it into, you know, a company's DNA?
So I do think that the leadership team, the board, the founders, you know, have to be 100% committed, because there are tough times along a journey as you start to bring this stuff into your business, and you take some of those punts, you know, that maybe do have an upfront cost that you believe will pay off later. You know, you have to, in those moments, remember you need that senior leadership team to be saying, no, we're gonna go through this, you know, even when it hurts. But then those leaders have got to be willing to, I'm going to use a cliched word now, but they've got to be willing to empower. But what I mean by that is they've got to be willing to let go of power. So people in the organization can only be as empowered as those leaders are willing to give away power. They can't hold on to it and give it away at the same time. And so what that means is encouraging initiatives that bubble up from the heart of the organization, from people at all levels, where sort of leaders almost pop up from anywhere, and then giving them freedom to go ahead and run with stuff and to learn from running with stuff, and then to enhance their ideas or scrap it and try something else, you know, to give them that freedom. That's the only way that it works. It has to be owned by people in the business. It can't be enforced. But you know, that is the trick. If we're thinking about DE&I, for instance, anyway, that's how it works. What you're really trying to create when you start thinking about how can we create more diversity, how can we create more inclusion, is really how can we create a sense of belonging. And you create belonging by people feeling that they own it, that it belongs, that they've got skin in the game. And so, you know, you're already, by giving away that power, you're already starting to create that sense that we're doing this together, all of us, and your ideas matter just as much as, you know, the founding partners' ideas.
And I think having those people with their hands on the wheel, right? And those are the ones who are, you know, kind of like using the tech in the right way. They're the ones that, you know, that when I say using it in the right way, that they really care about their clients, you know. And we were just chatting earlier about that we have a client service award here. We also have a tech transformation and a client transformation award. And when we introduce new categories on accounting excellence, we go through a lot of discussion because everyone likes continuity, right? When we introduce categories like that, and we introduce categories like these Pride Awards, they go through the roof because we're reacting to our community and what they're telling us, and that people who just showing us that accountants are those people who are whispering into the ears of business. They are the ones who are making a difference. And, you know, and it feels really good to be able to do. And that's why accounting excellence is getting kind of bigger and better with every year. So with that, I'm going to hope, I can't see it in my view, I hope that pinned onto the screen will be an entry toolkit. If not, we'll put the link in into the episode page. As we say, with the entries close for these awards and the other categories on the 14th of April. Get your entry in now. It's quicker to get it in, and then you can go back to it. You can go back to it, you know, time and time again if you've got better proof or evidence. Blair and Peter are obviously experts in their field. You know, we really take these seriously. We've had times when we've, you know, we haven't even run categories because we don't think the quality has been high enough. But I know that there is such interest in this because it is being normalized. It's not just, you know, kind of, you know, startups coming through. It is increasingly being normalized. So this is going to be a really, really popular set of awards. So get your entry started today. And I hope that Kevin is going to be presenting one of you with an award on the 3rd of October at the Roundhouse in Camden, lovely new venue. So today I just want to say thanks to Blair and Peter for coming along. It was really great insight. We'll be releasing this on social as well, as you can see it on the episode page. Kevin, thanks to you and Bright for sponsoring these and for all of your insight today. It's really, really helpful. And it's nice to be able to do something that, you know, I think we, you know, we're all here. We can see that this is part of our future as a profession. And thanks to you for watching and hopefully entering. Go and get your entries in now. And hopefully we'll see you on another webinar shortly. Okay, thanks a lot.